Guys, welcome to the Right Angle Podcast. We got a great episode tonight. I'm your host, Dr. Joel Seedman. My co-host, Jonathan Moore. And special guest of the hour is Duron Harmon. It's not every day where you have a Super Bowl champion in the house, not to mention a multi-Super Bowl champion. Duron, you've won 3 Super Bowls.
Correct.
During your illustrious career. So we'll definitely have to talk about that tonight. We want to talk about your football. We want to talk about strength training, kind of the plans going ahead, because you just recently announced your retirement, and congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
Very cool. I also feel a little special because, we get kind of first dibs on you. I know you've already had a few other interviews, and you're going to have plenty more coming up throughout the year, because you have a very cool career in the NFL and some of the things you've done. So to get you in here and to be able to talk about this before maybe you're on other people's podcasts, I feel very honored, and this is going to be good. So let's talk a little bit about just your football background, because I know people want to hear kind of about what you've done. You can start off even in high school and kind of moving into college and then pro, obviously. So
for sure. So from small city, Dover, Delaware. Not really a hotbed for talent. Not like being down here in the metropolitan Atlanta area. Always loved football though. My grandfather, rest his soul, took me to a Delaware State football game when I was 5. And from that moment, I just fell in love with the sport. Went to Caesar Rodney, 3-star athlete. Had to go out and showcase my talent, though. That's one thing that I really enjoyed. It was my sophomore year. Me and my dad, we hit the road. We went to a couple camps in New Jersey, one there, one I think it was like defensive back of the day or something like that. Then we went up to Penn State, did some stuff there. Like, we was just literally always on the road, just me and him. He would work nights, Friday nights, get home, and we would be out by usually like 4 or 5 in the morning. So played running back, played safety as well. Then accepted a full ride to Rutgers University. Went up there as a freshman. I just knew I didn't want to be there 5 years. I knew I didn't want a red shirt, but we had some good players in front of us. So what I decided to do, actually my big cousin, DJ Bell, actually told me, hey, you don't want to sit? Go find that special teams coach and ask him how you can get on the field. So that's one of the first things I did when I got there.
Smart.
Went to Coach Smith. Said, hey, where do you see me playing? He told me anywhere between the 1 through the 4 on kickoff, and gave me a front line on kickoff return, and then what was it, punt? Yeah, I was like a gunner. I took that in the summer, and there was a couple times when we, like as a freshman, you start in the back. You're at the 4s or the 5s. Like you gotta earn your way on the field. And I'll never forget, we were going against the starting kickoff return team. I ran down Joe LaFedge, one of my big brothers. He was the off returner. I ran him over, made the tackle on actually Devin McCourty. Crazy, because he was a senior. From that moment, they seen that. Then they brung me along.
That's awesome.
Got to play early. Then graduated there. 2-time All Big East player.
So you started off your career with big plays. It started in the pros.
We did okay. We did okay to
people,
get there.
People know your big plays from the pros. They don't remember maybe some of the early days in college.
Yeah.
You're literally, your nickname is the closer, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. And there's a reason for that. So to talk a little bit about what gave you that nickname.
Well, it was from the Boston media. Just for whatever reason, I would just always make plays in the fourth quarter. One thing that I just pride myself is on being able to focus, being able to play your best football when it matters the most. Anybody can, go out there in the first quarter and play with great effort, play with great focus. But what will you do when the game is on the line? Yeah. And for me, I wanted to be that reliable, accountable to my teammates, because when you go to the Patriots, it's all about winning. Yeah. And then you got Tom Brady there, who's doing all this, sacrificing, working his tail off.
Right.
And, he just set the standard. And I was always just trying to, be right underneath for him with my preparation, with my training and everything. I got a few birdie balls. I got a few of those. Not many, though. Nobody has many.
Right.
But, yeah, just wanted to always play my best football when it mattered the most. And eventually, when you're up a lot in the fourth quarter, when you got Tom Brady and you have to throw the ball, you're able to, have a little bit more opportunities on, intercepting the quarterback. So it was
It didn't just happen during the season. It was also postseason where you had some pretty big
For sure, definitely. Interception 2014 divisional round versus the Ravens was a big one. Got to get an interception in the Super Bowl, and then
which one was that?
50.
What team did you play? I don't remember that.
The Eagles. So what was that? Yeah, that was 52.
Oh,
that was
Nick
a loss.
Foles.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Still a lot of pain there. Still a lot of pain. That's one that I felt like we still should have won.
Right.
But that to be able to do that is awesome. That's the biggest game. Obviously, you want to win, but be able to walk away with an interception ball that the kids just throw around in the house is super cool.
So, telling you this little story. Last year I went to Rutgers, and I was with my nephew, my brother, and they live up there, close up there. And I'm walking around, and I saw on the wall, I was like, that's Duron? That's Duron from the gym. So I didn't even know you played at Rutgers. So, I know you were just mentioning it, being there, things like that. But go deeper into, your time there, favorable times, favorite games, memories there. What was the student life like? Your full experience at Rutgers?
It was awesome. I met some of the closest people in my life at Rutgers. Like, you talking about lifelong friends, because at the end of the day, you walk into college as a boy, a teenager, and I'll say when you leave, I would say you're like a young adult, still trying to figure it out. But for the first time in your life, you were on your own. So for me, you went through a lot of these situations and times with, some people who were going through similar times. So at the end of the day, it just, it brings you closer.
Right.
From a football standpoint, it was awesome. I mean,
you have Coach Schiano
for 3 years.
He's been there for a while?
Yeah, so he was there for 3 years. And then after my junior year, he went to the Buccaneers.
Did he come back?
And then he came back. So he's there now. He's there now.
Yeah.
And then I had Coach Flood for my senior year. We were always competitive. I think the 3 years we were 9-4. The 1 year we were 4-8, but that's when Eric LeGrand was paralyzed. So it just kind of that was the season, kind of just derailed the whole season. Nobody really wanted to play anymore. It was tough being on the field, seeing that. But it just overall playing there was awesome because I got to play for really good coaches that prepared me for the NFL. Yeah. But also just being there where my family could come up and see me play. I had my oldest son, not playing, but I had him in college, so that was really big. I think me and my wife were 20 at the time when we had him. But so I mean, Rutgers really just prepared me to be a football player, but also an adult. Yeah. Because I had some other responsibilities that I had to take care of, and at the end of the day, you got to take care of them one way or another. So it helped me learn how to just keep pressing forward no matter what it looks like at the time.
That's great.
That's very cool. Very cool. I want to segue a little bit into your training. I want people to understand where you've come from in terms of your background with strength training. Obviously, you've been training with me for, I think, about 4 years now. But I want the audience to kind of get a background for what you did prior to that, because essentially you were training, I would call it fairly traditional methods for your entire football career, from high school, college, pro, until we met. So talk a little bit about that, just to recap, a brief synopsis.
For sure. Like you just said, just traditional training, your deep, heavy squats, power clean, deadlift, just what everybody, what you're taught, what everybody thinks is the right way. I mean, from high school, we had a strength and conditioning coach, and literally we did the same lifts in high school that we did in college, that we did in the NFL when you get there, because it's just like that is what everybody thinks is the way. Yeah. And, to each his own. If you feel like you get the most from there, then, do it. But I think you also got to be eventually open enough to try new things and see how that, affects your body. And that's where, I kind of got with you. I always seen you working with Koo when I was on the Falcons, and I was like, man, that actually looks like not only cool, but like he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Like, so I was very, inquisitive and meeting you and hearing. And then when I came, I was just like, okay, this guy knows, what he's talking about, and he can definitely help me become, a more balanced athlete, but really a more aware athlete, and that's what was
body
able to
exactly
body awareness, and that was able to take just my level of understanding of how my body is actually made to move to a completely different level.
Yeah. My very first session with Joel, long time ago, I was a young guy. I mean, he can speak on this too. I think what did I say exactly? I think we were in the session like, man, like some of the stuff you were teaching me, coming back from my hip.
Yeah, like
hip,
you just felt like, okay, this is like
how
God. This is how God meant for us to move. And when you said that, I was like, wow, this guy gets it. And I think we're maybe a similar train of thought there for what you were looking at, because you were kind of studying the human body for a while leading up to the time that we met, and you weren't just kind of trying out different training methods. You were strategically trying to understand what's going on with the human body. How do you get your performance better? How do you prevent injuries? But before we talk a little bit about the contrast in training methods in terms of what we did and what we still do compared to your traditional methods, talk briefly about some of the musculoskeletal injuries and some of the different types of aches and pains, and even the surgery that you had, especially with the foot and ankle.
For sure. So in my right ankle, I had a bone spur that was like the size of a quarter. When they took it out, they was like, I don't even know how you could actually even bend your ankle. Then I had a lumbar discectomy. Just overuse of improper movements. Like, you get in these, your body conforms to its natural pattern over time, and you're using things that you shouldn't be using, and the next thing you know, you end up being injured.
Yeah, compensation.
So, a lot of, exactly. So for me, I had a lot of that, I didn't come into the NFL healthy at all. I used to walk around with a limp, just because of how tight that sciatic nerve going. I played my first 3 years knowing that I probably needed back surgery my first year. Finally got it after my third season. Obviously, we got some relief, a lot of relief. I would say that the sciatic nerve, the shooting pain was done. But the thing that I never did was properly realign my body after that. So all the compensations that were there stayed there, and when I would look at other athletes, some of the best in the, National Football League or even NBA, because then I just started like, how do they move well? And I realized that I just couldn't, my body wasn't able to get in those angles that they were getting into, because my body just wasn't strong enough and balanced enough. So, like I said, that's when I started, getting with you, because, I talked to Koo, and Koo told me, before, he worked with you, he had a lot of imbalances as well. And, this helped him, turn into the Pro Bowl kicker that he, has become.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting, because people listening to this, they're probably thinking like, wait, this guy is a multiple Super Bowl champion, played 11 years in the NFL, and he's saying that he struggled with movement. And this is something that every athlete I've ever worked with, they all say the same thing. It's not like, oh, you get to the NFL and you have perfect movement. I've never seen that, never heard of that. No athlete has ever said, oh yeah, I feel perfect. It's like they all say they have certain imbalances that they notice if they could just fix this, they would be an even better athlete. So even though you're at the top of, you know, the NFL, it's like, hey, you can still get better. You can still make improvements. There's
Especially
still
football.
Exactly.
Especially with that. And then when you got all the hitting, the aggression, the things going on, and then just the durability. You know, I play football, I didn't play in the NFL. But I understand what it's like. It's time consuming. It's tough on your body. Can you play a game? Yeah. Can you do it again? And then the next week. And then the next week. And then the next year. And then the next year, right? And as someone who's played in the NFL 11 years, at some point, as we've established, if you don't change your muscle function, nothing's going to change with your body.
Right.
And it seems like that's the same thing with you.
Right. Right.
Yeah, because one of the things I remember with our initial consultation, that first session that we had, was you kind of bringing up this component of longevity. You want to see if you not only can improve and continue playing at a high level, but how long could you do that for?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you don't want to just play another 1 or 2 years. You want to play like 3, 4. If you can hold up, play longer.
Yeah.
And so I remember that was a big thing for you, and I think that kind of gave me an understanding of like, okay, when we move into this next phase of training for your career, it's like, all right, longevity, muscle function, you know, biomechanics, that's going to be the key. And that's what we do with all of our athletes. But for you, especially being an NFL veteran and having plenty of strength training background, it wasn't like, hey, let's just start loading you up heavy from the first day.
Yeah.
We started off pretty light and pretty basic, very fundamental. And some of those sessions were brutal for you.
Were very, very, very brutal.
Yeah.
They were tough. But the thing for me, it was a challenge. And I love challenges.
Yeah.
I love to challenge myself mentally, physically. And, you know, I will come to you some days, and I mean, we be in there, I'd be, you know, mad, upset.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, I would always come back, you know, because I knew just once I could get the body awareness and knowing how to bend, knowing how to jump, I knew it would not only help me, but eventually, you know, like I said, I have 5 boys. They play sports, and I want to be able to make sure that they're healthy.
Yeah.
You know, when they're playing sports,
And especially earlier too.
Exactly,
so
because
they have
that's
more of a clean slate when it
Exactly.
comes to their weightlifting form, their strength training.
their patterns.
Right. Yeah.
I want their patterns to be clean,
Right.
You know, because you know. Now we're in the age where, you know, high school programs are acting like college programs. So they're going to want the kids to lift the weight. So it's just, I just want to know that my boys know how to bend, lift
for sure.
At that time, so that they can, you know, we can make sure that we can mitigate, you know, any risk for injuries.
Yeah, and especially the longevity.
Yeah.
And the durability. You know, you want to play high school? Okay. You want to play college? Okay. I mean, that's 8 years right there.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, the types of injuries we're seeing now in high school athletes and sometimes even younger is crazy. So, yeah, they're playing and performing at a higher level in some regards, but there's also more compensations and movement deficiencies than they've ever had. And I think a lot of that goes back to some of the strength training that they're doing at school. These coaches aren't paying attention to their movement patterns, their quality of movement. It's all about the quantity. Are you lifting more weight? Are you getting stronger? Are you putting up bigger numbers on squat, bench, deadlift, power cleans? And if you are, awesome. It's like, okay, well, what about some of the more subtle components of how are they getting to those movements? How are they squatting? How are they deadlifting? So for us, you know, when we started, like any athlete that I've ever worked with, everyone starts off with compensation patterns and bad habits. It's par for the course. I think because you maybe had a little bit more of an extensive background with traditional training, it took a little bit longer at first to break some of those habits. And like we were just alluding to, those first, I would say, several weeks and even months, we didn't do anything heavy, but you were shot. I mean, you would do, I mean, we would do 3 reps on a goblet squat, correcting some of those imbalances, doing it with perfect form, 90 degrees, locking it in, holding that 90-degree position. And you would be like, "What? Like, why am I sweating so much? Why is my heart rate going through the roof?"
We've all been there. We've all been there.
For sure.
But it's just something that I think a lot of athletes, it's almost, I wouldn't say embarrassing, but like to say that you're struggling with a 50-pound goblet squat when you've squatted 400 or 500 pounds, like in their minds, like, no, that shouldn't be happening. But it's like, no, correcting imbalances and muscle dysfunction is the most exhausting thing you can do. It's absolutely brutal, more brutal than doing a 400 or 500 pound squat, where you get to default back to your old compensation patterns. And once we got you going with the proper movements, I mean, you caught on so quickly. And it was funny. I mean, it still is, like, you were such a competitor in the weight room. Like, you absolutely hate it when you don't do something perfectly. And seeing you get frustrated those first few sessions, like, all right, this guy, I can see why he's won.
Patriot way.
Exactly.
Patriot way.
You got to be right.
That's
Exactly.
right. I love it, man. I love it.
But I think it was even like some of the single leg exercises, like the balance, like the single leg squats, the single leg RDLs, exploding out of the single leg position. Those were things that a lot of athletes, I would say,
those are some of the toughest.
So tough.
Most
I mean,
definitely.
every pro athlete struggles with those, and I don't think you were used to maybe struggling with some of those components. Of being able to pause on one leg with weight in your hands, jump off one leg, land and stick that landing. And now you can do that. It's not effortless. It's not effortless for anyone, but you can do it repeatedly with perfect form and do it over and over and over again without compensations. And so your knees don't hurt, your low back doesn't hurt, your hips don't bother you because everything is properly aligned. And that's the big thing. I think the alignment, when you're, say, for example, squatting deep and your hips are rotated out, your feet are rotated out, it's like inevitably there's going to be all these compensation patterns, and then you're going to have to fix those because you're going to go run, and guess what your feet and hips are going to want to do?
Exactly.
They're going to want to rotate out, and that it's still like in your nervous system, you can still see how your body occasionally wants to default back to that if you don't stay on top of your mechanics. But as long as you do stay on top of it, it's like, no, your feet and your hips stay straight. But it's like, this is like for you, for me, for everyone, we all have our deficiencies that our body wants to gravitate back to. And as long as you stay on the training, it's like, okay, you can keep those things, under the mat, so to speak. But if you stop training with proper form, it's like, man, those old habits,
Won't come right back.
they want to
It's like there's no
back
fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no fence, right? You're either getting better or you're not.
Yeah.
You know, so that applies to a lot of things, but most definitely with the muscle function and the activation. So.
Also want to address this topic of explosive training because, I mean, you obviously have great speed. When we first started training, those first few months, we really didn't do anything explosive in the weight room. We didn't do any ballistic movements. We didn't really do any plyometrics. Everything was slow and controlled, yet your quality of movement and even your speed improved. Not because we weren't doing anything explosive. We weren't doing anything fast twitch. We were simply improving your quality of movement. And I think a lot of athletes don't understand how, because they see someone maybe doing a squat slowly. They're like, oh, that's not going to make you fast. They look at the outcome. They look at externally what's happening. It's like, no, you have to think about what's happening at that deeper intramuscular level. So I want to talk a little bit about how you felt the strength training that we did, the 90-degree eccentric isometrics, how that improved your quality of movement and things that you noticed on the field.
Well, I would say the first thing that I noticed when we first started doing like 90 and you were explaining to me about getting in 90 degrees, I went back and I just watched like the movement of football players. Like anytime somebody's breaking, anytime anybody's cutting, exerting any type of, force in the ground, they're usually at like a 90-degree angle. So once I realized that, it's like, okay, Dr. Joel is training me to get to the angle that I need to be at to create force. Yeah. So we started doing, like you said, the eccentric squats, or every exercise that we did, we went with a slow tempo, like everything, and we got to those movements. And what I started realizing when I went back to the field, those movements felt more natural and efficient. I was able to get to those spots up and down, a little better rather than, my feet being out like this. Like, while it might not have been perfect, it was a lot better than what it was. And my gait was able to stay closed. So then my hips are able to stay underneath of me, and I'm able to, keep my center of mass under me, which will allow me to create, more force and more energy going out. So for me, it was like listening to what you're telling me, seeing how it, applies to my line of work at the time, which was football. And then, all right, you're telling me do this. All right, well, I'm going to go do this while I'm also on the football field now. Like, I'm going to practice on keeping my core in. I'm going to practice on, having a strong foot when I plant, like making everything locked in and loaded. And I think for me, one of the biggest moments of like gain for me was when we started working on like contracting all our muscles on each exercise.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is because at the end of the day, that's running.
Yeah.
Like that's doing, it's everything. Like, everything has to, it has to be, because if it's not, then, then something goes out, and then, we're not using the muscles that were designed for us to create the force that we need. So
that's insightful, because even on bench press, we're worried about how our feet are positioned.
Exactly.
Even
Yes.
even on a squat, we're worried about how our hands are positioned, our head, our jaw, our breathing. It's not like, oh yeah, we know we're doing a squat, let's focus on the legs. It's like, no, we need to focus on having every component of the body locked in, especially posture. That's one of the big things we worked on with you, because it's what we work on with everyone, ourselves. Every athlete has to work on that, because posture is the foundation for everything. And if your posture's off, then all of your movements are going to be off to varying degrees. And you're, it wasn't like you had horrible posture. Obviously, you're playing the NFL, you're very athletic, but it could be improved, and we did improve it. And once we did that, it's like that quality of movement and just continue to improve exponentially. I think what you said too about the full body contraction, getting rid of those energy leaks. You had some energy leaks to begin with, like the feet rotating out, maybe the shoulders kind of coming up and over, that core not firing like it needed to. But that's something that, again, all athletes deal with. But then, like you said, once you figure out how to co-contract and squeeze into those positions and hold it with every muscle firing, it's like, wow, that's where you really start to see it transfer to other movements on the field. Now, it's cool to see you even to this day, like, just go out in the field and move, whether it's sprinting or back there. It's like, man, this guy is...
And especially as someone who didn't probably engage everything fully before.
For sure.
And even as, like, a seasoned veteran playing football, I mean, man, that must have felt like great. Yeah. It's just new stimulus, and then everything's locked and loaded. Yeah. So that must have been great.
No, it was really good. I think for me, I started to realize, like, when I was running, it would hurt. Like, there were certain things that was just like, dang, why I don't feel smooth? Like, why I don't feel like it used to? And it was because, like, the engagement of all the muscles that we need, and the small muscles. Right. And then once we started, working at getting more engagement, running never felt better.
I remember you talking about the first session. You were saying, like, when I sprint, just things don't feel right.
Yeah.
And that's something that you hear a lot of athletes talk about. And it's like, how come when I was 20, 21, 22, I could sprint and everything felt right.
Up to you.
Starts catching up to you. Those
especially you play that much.
Yeah.
It's going to catch up.
And now, like, you sprint quite a bit. It's smooth.
Yeah.
You don't have pain. Yeah. And you're able to hit those MPHs. Like, you're easily getting 21 miles per hour. Like, I mean, still. Sure. And it's no problem. I mean, it's not like you've gotten slower. If anything, you've maybe put a little bit of extra speed on.
We definitely turned the clock back a little bit.
For sure.
We're doing this stuff.
What was your best 40 time?
Best 40? Well, I ran a 4.51, but I pulled my hamstring on the next one. So,
but with the 40-yard dash, it's important. But at the end of the day, how do you run with pads on, with the adrenaline, in the game? So 40s are very good. But sometimes I've seen guys run a 4.6. They in the game, they're running probably like a 4.04.
Yeah, because they usually have great acceleration.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. Like, who can accelerate? Who can get to top speed quick?
Yeah.
So
one of your things though was cutting. Like, that's something that you excelled in, but it's also an area where you felt like, hey, my body's not, it's not doing what I needed to when I cut. And I think it was back to the hips, back to the feet. If those hips don't stay closed and they open up like they would on those wide ass-to-grass squats, it's like your ability to pivot and cut and turn and change direction, it's severely compromised. And that your body was kind of fighting itself because genetically you did have that ability. It was really good. But I think some of those squat patterns and lunge patterns over the years of just going heavy and not paying attention to form, which again, happens to every athlete. I think it started to catch up to you. And once we started to learn how to close those hips and get into the oblique slings, which I think, we talk about the hips, right? We always talk about, coaches say, hey, like, you got to get into your hips. You got to fire your hips. But, like, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
Like, you tell it to an athlete, like, okay.
Like, we've all heard it.
Yeah.
And especially playing DB.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow his hips or get your own hips right.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
Carry on, but yeah.
No,
sure.
but exactly. I mean, you guys know it from a football perspective because you both played. I didn't play, but if you tell an athlete get in your hips, and it's like if they don't know how to find their hips when they're in the weight room, under very slow, controlled, like deconstructed movements, how do you expect them to find it during ballistic dynamic movements that are happening at just a rapid pace in the field where you don't even have time to think about it?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things for you. It's like almost every lower body exercise, like your glutes are like, oh man, you felt that.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like, oh yeah, my low back or my knees, and you know how to, again, close the hips. And at that 90-degree spot, it's like that's where that max contraction occurs. You can go deeper, but you're going to start losing that. And then it's going to go somewhere else, like the tendons, the ligaments, the low back.
Yeah.
So I feel
like
like
what you said too, the oblique sling.
Yeah.
Because that's going to travel up to your lats.
Yeah.
That's going to get your back engaged. You're playing football, your pad level, and just, if you're pressing or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so important, right?
100%.
It affects everything.
That's a great point, because one of the exercises I feel that you've really improved over the years was that single leg RDL, that ability to get into the hips. And I remember one of the like aha moments for you was like, oh, that opposite lat.
When we was doing like the jumps with
yes,
it. Yeah, for sure.
It was like, at first it's like, okay, it's a pretty advanced movement, doing a single leg RDL, then exploding out of that, and then catching yourself back in the same exact position. And this is when we were starting to get, it's a great movement, but it's advanced. And to be able to stick it with the exact same form that you jump out of. And it was like, okay, it was all there, but you were missing some little piece. And like, oh, that lat activation on that opposite arm. And you started to really like find that, because we were talking about the oblique slings. And then that opposite glute fires. And like you said, it all starts, that's that oblique sling where it just X's through.
X's, And
it feels not only like you can produce power, but it feels stable. And I think your stability now is just, it's insane.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and it's so cool because like it's like everything that you're explaining about now about the body and the movements is what I was like, okay, I can do it on the weight room now. All right, now how can I do this on the field? And then once I was able to understand what the body was supposed to look like or feel like, more than anything, feel like
the feel
when I'm when I'm back pedaling, then I start like I'm just telling you, just the awareness of. Now I could understand if, like, when I was breaking forward, if my foot was underneath of me or was it too far outside. Like, because now my hips is open. Like, so it was just like being able to take what we learned and then apply it to the field.
That's great.
Has been like and it's been game changing for my kids too. Like just being able to, because like you said, it's like one of the things where like coaches, in football, they say like, roll your hips. And like I remember hearing that when I was young. I'm like, what do you mean by roll your hips?
Roll
like,
your hips?
What is that when you hit
roll
contact, roll your hips? Like, but in reality, like obviously like we said, it's not really rolling your hips. It's like taking the extra step. It's bringing the foot and being able to be aware. Then I'm like, I'm doing stuff with them. I'm like, oh, it's not really that. It's this. But now I'm able to, really explain rather than just throw out some football, saying from who knows when. It's like, nah, we need to do this.
You got
and I'm
substance.
super, and I'm super aware to be like, this is what it's supposed to feel like.
That's what's great. I know you're going to say, but it's great to hear you say it because you're able to fine tune yourself.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's clicking in your brain. Your proprioception levels are coming up. And you're playing football, right? You don't always have somebody over there to help your body out. You got to know yourself. But if you're not getting the proper muscle function, you're not getting into your hips, you're not having proper posture, you're not having oblique sling activation. You can't self-correct, fine-tune yourself. So that can only help benefit yourself, therapeutically. But then performance-wise, like you just said, the foot was a little bit under me, a little bit over me, hips are here, shoulders are there. So the fact you were able to fine-tune. I mean, that's tremendous.
Awesome.
That's how you know your body's in the right spot.
I don't think I've ever had an athlete do a better job of taking what they learn in the weight room and applying it like literally the next session on the field to the level you did. I mean, you would come back.
Patriot way.
Yeah.
I'm a Falcons fan.
Exactly. Exactly. But you would come back. We would usually train once a week. Okay,
Yes,
so I
sir.
want people to understand
Yes,
that
sir.
not every athlete trains with me, 3 times a week. You would train with me once a week, but then you would take what we did and you would apply it to your own workouts, and then you would also apply the same concepts and biomechanics to your field work, and you would always come back the next week and I'd be like, hey man, how you feeling? I always like to ask the athletes, how do they feel on the field?
Yeah.
Not just the weight room, because ultimately the purpose of strength training
Right,
is not to turn you into a weightlifter. It's to make you a better athlete on the field. And you would always come back and literally you would encapsulate in your description of what you did on the field, it would include what we did at the previous workout, because you understood what you needed to do to implement those things in the field. It was always cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. That was awesome because for me, that's like you said, it's what we do it for.
Yeah.
We strength train and get better biomechanically to be able to move better on the football field, and that's the one thing that we talk about all the time. But I mean, the more I came to you, the more I started understanding what we did was the more questions.
Yeah.
Like we would be in the middle of a lift and then I'll have, a question, and then we sitting there for, 3-5 minutes and you explain it, and it's like, oh man, like a light bulb is going off in my head. Like, oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, well, when I get back out on the field, well, I'm gonna try to do it this way. I'm gonna try to, see if I can engage this a little bit more and keep it engaged. And then, when I started seeing the results of that, I started just giving it to my boys a little bit. And then once I seen them take the information, I was like, yeah, this is the way.
And one thing, quick observation of how that's great stuff. I think what you were saying at the beginning was about the concept of being open a little bit. Because it seems like you're very into it, like you want to learn, you're eager to learn. And like the way you were able to step into that and realize like, oh man, this stuff really is the real deal, it's the way to go, is that you were kind of open to it a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, that was the root of you having this knowledge, being eager to learn. So it's just interesting how we see that point come back around. So that's pretty cool as well.
Because you think about it, the space that I was in, the NFL is competitive, and you're always just trying to find a way to find an advantage.
Yeah.
That's what I learned, Patriot way up there with Bill and them. But I was always trying to be better, because at the end of the day, I truly, I'm not gonna say I love the sport. I love what the sport has done for me. I love just competing with the sport. It's like I told you, since I was 5 years old, this is all I've ever wanted to do. And I always wanted to make sure that I was giving it my all. And luckily for me, got, a chance to play with the Falcons, me with Dr. Joel. And then next thing you know, I'm improving my fundamentals and my biomechanics at, 31, 32 years old. And, more times than not, a lot of people just like, you know what? I'm going to just, go ahead right off in the sunset. I played 8-9 years. But for me, it was like, I found something that can help me, not only on the field, but longevity as well. Like, I want to be able to, take my kids and go to water parks,
your friends,
do this, I do that. Like, I want to be able to train. Like, I want to be able to do all this stuff. Like, so this gave me the ability to be able to find the fountain of youth.
That's awesome. It's interesting, though, what you said, because we're always talking about, like, trying to connect not just what's happening physically, but, like, connect the mind to the body and even the spiritual component. But just real quick about the mind and the body, the connection there. You have a really good understanding no connections. But you have a really good understanding of what your body needs to do. And you're really good about like strategizing it, kind of going into the nitty gritty details. And then, like you said, once you can feel it, then you can start to take what's happening in the body. You wrap your mind around what's happening internally, and then you actually understand it. You comprehend it even better. And when you can understand and comprehend your training, whether it's your sport, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's how your body is moving on the field, that's powerful, because now you just had a huge connection with your mind and your body. And it's like it's like an exponential effect. They both kind of feed off each other. I think with the sense of feel, that's what it does. It allows people to take cues and concepts that they've heard and maybe understood over the years. But then once you can feel it, it's like, whoa, now you internalized it. And now you can teach it if you have to, but you can teach it to yourself. And like you mentioned earlier, you become your own coach, because you don't always have a coach.
Yeah.
You don't always have a coach holding you by the hand, especially in the NFL. You have to be able to make those corrections and fine tune. So that's very cool to see. We've been talking a lot about this term sense of feel, or in the scientific literature, it's called proprioception, which again, all that means is your sense of feel, how your body senses things, senses your movement. But I want the audience to understand, just in case this is maybe one of their first times listening to this podcast or coming across these methods and what we're talking about. We keep mentioning this, and we've mentioned the 90-degree eccentric isometrics, and I want to just connect the dots here just real quickly of how the 90-degree eccentric isometric protocol enhances sense of feel. So we have these little proprioceptive mechanisms in our muscles. They're the muscle spindles, and they give us feedback about sense of feel. Okay, when those little things are activated, our sense of feel, our ability to tune into what's happening, is heightened. So then the question is, well, how do I get those little muscle spindles to turn on? How do I get more proprioception? Well, it comes down to a few things. One is the muscles do have to be stretched, but they can't be overstretched. And you also have to have a lot of tension and stiffness. And that's why when you go to 90 degrees, you not only have that stretch, you have a moderate level of stretch, but you also have that high degree of stiffness. This goes back to what you were mentioning earlier about everything tight, everything engaged. That's been shown in the literature to enhance proprioception because it turns on those muscle spindles. So now your ability, as you mentioned,
and at their best level.
Yes, at their best level, it's their maximum.
Yes.
Because it's not like, okay, if someone's not training with this, they have zero proprioception. It's like, no, they just don't have heightened.
That's right. I think people will point that out because they can still get
you can still
levels of it, right?
Yeah.
But the best, the maximum happens at that 90-degree joint.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the sweet spot. That's why when we do an exercise and you're holding those 90-degree positions, and I can kind of call to your attention, or sometimes I might not even have to tell you, you can feel like, oh, I need to make this adjustment with my hips. You can start to internally understand what's happening. Instead of if you collapse and go too deep, now those muscle spindles are not firing to the same extent as you suggested. They're not firing as much. So now your sense of feel is like, okay, I guess my glutes are engaged. Oh, or my hips out too much. Or coach, how's this look? Like, I guess it looks good.
Tension's lost a little bit.
Tension's
more pressure
lost.
on the joints.
Exactly.
They accumulate, things happen.
Exactly. And
the most powerful punch ever was Francis Ngannou. Boom, boom, 90-degree joint with tension.
Exactly. So it's not just about sense of feel. It is about power, but having the ability to tune into what's going on internally is huge. So, and then it goes back to posture. Posture is huge because that's our signaling highway, our spine, right? And if our spine is out of alignment, we don't get those signals. They're short-circuited. We still get them, but they're not coming through to the same extent. And then once again, our sense of feel is compromised. So with the 90-degree eccentric isometrics, we have that tension, we have an optimal level of stretch, but we also maintain alignment and spinal stiffness. And the combination of that, that's what gives us the sense of feel. And that allows the athlete to become their own coach and to fine-tune their movement. I think those are the things that you've tuned into over the last few years, that you could tune into what's going on rather than me always having to tell you and lead you by the hand. And this is the point now when we train, I barely have to give you any cues. It's almost, I don't want to say it's like bad for business, but like you almost don't need me there, right? Like I'll point out a few small things, but you can replicate the movements repeatedly on your own with perfect form, rep after rep, whether it's a single leg version or eyes closed. I know we were talking about eyes closed earlier. That had to be a little bit weird for you when we first started doing some eyes closed training.
Man, it was the most frustrating thing because I couldn't get it. You know, just because at that point it can only be a sense of feel. Yeah. Because you can't focus on anything, so you have to be truly locked in and aware of what needs to be firing, how it needs to be firing, and how everything is working together. So, I mean, like I said, early in our time together, I was falling all over the place. But I'll say I've gotten better.
Slightly.
Yeah, I just say better. Have not perfected that or come closer, but got better.
No, your balance is like, I mean, it's like next level.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, actually, especially like how you're able to do single leg explosive exercises, because those are things that we tried several years ago, even into like 6 months of the training, and you weren't quite able to do it. But now it's like, man, you can just do it so perfectly now. And it's like, you're older, and you would think at this stage in your career your performance is worse, but in reality, it's better.
Yes.
And you're retiring on your own terms.
Yeah.
Not because you can't play, but because you have other obligations in your life.
Hey, if somebody goes down.
Yeah. If somebody goes down,
someone goes down. You got the guy.
Exactly.
Hey, definitely got the guy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I want to maybe one more question about the training, and then we'll kind of close things out here. I don't want people to think that every single moment during the last 4 years of our training that you have had not a 0 ounce of pain. Okay.
Yeah.
You've had 1 or 2 times
For sure.
where you maybe tweaked your back, and it usually happened on your. I think it did happen on your own, like with boxing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you would. I remember the first. I believe it was 2 specific times
Yeah.
over the last 4 years where you. And I think every athlete has experienced this, where you kind of blow
Yeah.
your back for like a few days, or you tweak it. It's like, oh man, what happened? It just gives out, or doesn't feel right, or you experience pain or some type of nagging kind of tweak. I want to talk about that so the audience understands the best way to go about that when you have those types of tweaks. It's not that you just shut everything down and just rest and let your body recover. Because I remember you texted me. This was like a few years ago.
Yeah,
like,
that was
Doc,
the first time.
Yeah. You were like, oh man, I can't come in today. Like I did something with boxing. My hip is all off. I'm like, no.
That's when you got to come in.
You gotta come in, because when I have an athlete experience that for the first time, it's like, man, that's your golden opportunity.
I have learned that with you many times. I'm like, oh man, I can't do it. Like years ago, I can't do it. No, that's when you got to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
Yeah,
In a smart manner.
No,
right?
it is.
Obviously,
Yeah, for sure.
Like it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, I want to discuss that for just a minute or two.
for sure.
You can describe kind
Yeah.
of your own
So-
scenario,
so
and I can
you're-
go in more into the science.
You're right. It happened twice. The first time was boxing. Like I said, I had back surgery, so the left side of my back is just naturally, it doesn't engage as much as it should if I'm not, really thinking about it and being aware.
You had done
of the
a lot of
situation.
volume that day. I think you
Without
said you
a
did.
doubt,
Like
it was super. It was the volume. For me, the volume was
yeah.
always high. Just trying to always get the extra edge. And then the other time was just, overarching the back. I think, and then we overarched when we did like a deadlift. But the first time, I text you. I said I'm not going to be able to come in, and then obviously I go in, and we're doing really like the stuff that we did when we first started.
Yeah. Foundation.
Just foundational stuff. Just reprogramming the body all over again.
Exactly.
Because obviously something was not firing the right way. And usually just with the work that we've done over the last 4 years, we can usually get it, back firing how we need to. And I'm telling you, I walked in there, hunched over, left side of my back killing me. And then, towards the middle of it, I'm starting moving better. I start getting a little deeper in my squat. And by the time that I'm leaving, feeling, as good as I can. You know what I mean? Because obviously with the, being pressed and all that, there's still some discomfort there.
Yeah.
But at
like
that point,
70%
without a doubt, I'm at the point where I can at least be functional now.
Yeah.
Like even there's times where I didn't want to bend over, but then when I left, I could bend over.
But most importantly, obviously when this happens to anyone, in their mind, it's like, how do I get rid of this pain?
Shut down.
Yeah.
Most
So
shut down.
exactly, shut down. And then when they experience the resolve, relief of pain, it's like, oh, that's awesome. But the true benefit from this comes long term, because it's like, okay, you're in pain. The only way you're going to be able to squat, hinge, lunge is your form is going to have to be so freaking locked in. You're going to have to be so tight, that co-contraction, that
Forces you
alignment.
to.
Yeah.
Yep. All
You
those
automatically get better.
exactly. And so it forces you to find your form to another level. Just when you think I've got it mastered, it's like, nope, you were missing something. And like you said, maybe it was that core wasn't firing just enough. Because I can see, I have a pretty good eye. You have a good eye for these things when you see an athlete move, but we can't see what's happening at the intramuscular level.
Yeah.
And only you can feel that. It's back to the sense of feel. And when you're injured, your sense of feel is through the roof because your body is hypersensitive.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you can either, shut it down and not learn from this, or go into the weight room, use this as your golden opportunity, to fix things and learn more about your body and take it to another level. It's almost like, okay, this injury, any injury, it's going to either make you better or worse.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in your hands
For
how
sure.
that's going to go.
And it was, for me, it was like those two moments were probably some of my bigger gains of just understanding, like, all right, what was causing that? All right. And then once we figured out, it's like, it never happened again.
Yeah.
Because obviously nobody wants to be in pain.
Right.
But like you said, it's a great opportunity to get better from.
Absolutely. As we're kind of moving out here and finalizing, I want to talk a little bit about, we talked about the mental component, we talked about the physical component, and we all believe in mind, body, spirit, and they all work together. We always discuss everything in our training sessions, from, obviously the physical stuff, football, family, kids, but we've had some good spiritual discussions over the years, and it's been cool to watch you develop, not just physically and mentally, but even seeing some of your spiritual growth. And it's, I mean, it's maybe we can talk about that for a minute or two. I know your faith has been a big thing for you.
No, for sure. So obviously I grew up in the church. My mother was a reverend. Played instruments, played the organ, played the piano, played the drums. So obviously, just the component of knowing who God is has always been there. And you get older, and it's that line that we walk, and there's times where you get off of the line. And then there's times when you get back on, and there's time when you off. And I would just say over the last 3 years, as this transition has started, what has really helped me was my walk. Because you go from a situation of being like, you're the starter, you're gonna be the starter, you're going through OTAs, you're going through this, and then then you're not there for OTAs, then you're not there in training camp, then you got to sit there and you got to wait, and there can become a lot of anxious times during that, and you can really drive yourself a little crazy about the what if game. And the only thing that really calmed me down and gave me peace was being able to give it all to God, and be able to trust what His plan is for me. Obviously, like we talked about it, I know I can still play football at a high level. I probably can play it at a better level right now than I've ever done before. But at this moment, that's just not my path. My path is, being here with my family, enjoying my 5 kids, enjoying my wife, being able to pour into them, just like they poured into me over that whole time, when I was playing in the league. So just,
it's awesome.
Yeah, for me,
amazing,
it was just, it was me learning more about myself to be a better version of myself, because once I realized that, the peace that I have within will give peace and show light to my family, my direct family, my wife and my kids. Like, if they see me like this, they're going to feel good. But if they see me, stressing and worrying about, am I going to get the opportunity to play, or am I, that's going to create some type of anxious times for them as well. Sure. So I need to be able to be, the word that God always talks about for us is just being content. Being content with what you have. And what I have is way more than enough. I've been able to travel the world playing a game. Like, when you really put that into perspective, we talking about travel the world to play a childlike game. Yeah. And I had to change my perspective of not about what I can't get at the moment, rather than what He has already blessed me with. And what He has blessed me with, I'm telling you, it's way more than enough. I couldn't even imagine if you told me when I was 5 years old, when I first went to that Dell State game, that this is what my football journey would be like and get to. I'd be like, how? Like, I wouldn't even 3-time Super Bowl champion. Like, being able to, impact people, family. Like, it was just like, now that I'm here and I get to really sit back and reflect on my journey, it's just like, man, how awesome was
Yeah.
that? How cool was that? Like, God chose me.
To be able to do
Come
these
on,
things.
man.
Yeah.
Like, you could choose anybody. There's so
Yeah.
many people in the world, but you chose me
Amen.
to do that and to show people how good you are. And I'm just forever thankful, humble.
Well, perhaps
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why he did chose you, because he knew you would be responsible with giving him the glory.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, "Oh, I did it because I'm such a good athlete." It's like, no, you're saying, "Hey, I don't know how I got here. It's all the credit goes to God." And he knew that, and maybe that's why he chose you to put you in this position.
I think that's the same for everybody on planet Earth.
For sure.
Yeah.
God chose you.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's a great thing. I can't speak for you. That was amazing what you said. So did you say the last, 3 years, you said your face started getting stronger?
Yeah, for sure.
When did you guys start training?
Yeah, about 3-4 years. We probably started talking about
it's
physical.
interesting, you know,
Yeah.
the
But
training
well,
and the physical too.
to tie that in, you literally said this. I think exactly. You said your walk really improved. Okay,
Yeah.
well, guess what else improved? Your physical walk.
Yeah.
Like as
Just
you
observe that.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk about our walk, it's like, okay, like the spiritual walk is the most important thing.
Yeah.
But the physical walk and how you walk, like you can really see a lot with what's going on in someone's biomechanics with how they walk. You can tell the same thing spiritually. Like, how's your spiritual walk? Are you
Yeah.
staying close to God?
Yeah.
Or are you just doing things on your own?
Yeah.
So, when we talk about mind, body, spirit, there really is a big connection. But and as you said though, it's like we're all put in positions in life, and if we try and do it on our own strength, like God's hand of favor might not be on it to the same extent as if we say,
Even
hey,
if it goes well, like
even if
in
it
the
goes well.
material
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in the natural.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
not always, the real benefits.
Exactly.
And it, so that's just to your point.
But when we surrender it to Him and say, hey, guys, for you, it's for your glory, whatever you decide, then
Right.
His hand of favor is on it. And then you're going to He's going to use your skills to the maximum, whatever that looks like, and whatever profession that is, and that's what we can all hope for.
And that's great to see with you, Duron, too. Like, I know you just retired from the NFL, right? But hopefully someone signs you in the playoffs. But seriously, like, that's just great to see, and that's very encouraging. And it's like, you might be, kind of stepping away from football, right? But it sounds like you're entering your prime with your walk with the Lord. And that impact that you're going to have, like you said, especially with more family time and time to impact the youth and people and just whoever you come in contact with. Like, the timing of that, I think, is perfect. It sounds like. So that's very encouraging.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate
This is awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on here. Like
Great
I said,
episode.
I feel kind of blessed to have you on here, even though I train, weekly with you, to kind of get first dibs on you, because I know you're going to have a lot of other interviews over the course of the next months and even year or two with teams and different podcasts, and wanting to have you on. So it was really awesome, though. It was cool to talk about this and to go deeper into your story. So, guys, hope you enjoyed that. If you want to find out more about the methods, you can go to my website. I got the free book on there, Movement Redefined Fundamentals. If you want to find out more about Duron, all you got to do is look up his name, whether it's Instagram or Google or YouTube. He's all over there.
Falcons, hit him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Falcons, hit him up.
Exactly. So, anyways, thanks for coming on, Duron.